one is remaining, that is how to use the web configuration settings. Okay, so for using this web configuration settings, I will take one page actually. Okay, I am not going to disturb the other pages which we have created till now. So by going add new item, I am going to create one web form with any name actually. So let's keep this as default itself. Okay, so that can be any name. I am simply unselecting this master page and clicking add. So this is the page which it is going to be created for me, and you can see, uh, except some form ID, run at server, all these are actually nothing but the HTML markers, and the starting, the directive is called as page directive. So using the page directive, we can tell the compiler to do some certain things like whether to buffer the page object in memory or not. Okay, so these are the properties that we can set on this page directive. So this particular directive is called as page directive. Okay, so now one more thing is, suppose we want to have some common settings across all the pages which are available for my web application. Okay, so where to keep that? Because state management techniques are actually from the coming from the server side. That means in the server's memory, by using the objects of session and application. And if you are talking about the client side storing mechanisms, then we will see with the views, this particular cookies and control view state. So these are some part of the implementations of storing the data. Okay. Now across all the web pages, I want to have a common setting. Suppose I want to have a common setting for my database connection. So database connection is not going to be changed for each of the page. Okay. So it is unique, and it is going to be single setting which can be applicable for all my web pages. Okay. So how to do that? So for that, we can provide the settings in the web.config file. So this is a configuration file. This particular configuration file, we have some uh, settings like um, authentication, client deployment. So where that is coming? Yes. So not under this system.web actually. You have to see where that particular connection strings is appearing in the configuration section itself. When I put this less than symbol, you can see some app settings, some connection strings settings, some location based settings, runtime settings. So all these can be applicable in my web.config file. So for doing this connection string settings, what can I do is, uh, I can provide the name of this particular, suppose this is a remote DB. Okay, so this is a remote DB, and the connection string is some provider is equal to something. Okay, so provider is equal to some 172 some IP address. Maybe this can be valid or not, I don't know. But then some user ID, then password. So in that way, you can provide your database settings. Okay. So similarly, if you are working in a development environment, then also you can have one more implementation like setting with this local DB, and this can be your local host address. Okay. So provider is equal to this particular local host. Then you can say that initial catalog is equal to my DB, then integrated security is equal to true. So this we have seen in the ADO.NET Practical also. So in that way, we can keep different settings for one that is for the remote servers and one for the local database connection. That means working from your development environments. Okay. So this way you can keep n number of settings for the connection strings. Okay. Now, from the application point of view, you want to access these settings from this particular. You want to access these settings from this default page or any other page from which you want to access the database. Okay. So how to do that? So for that, I will like constraint. Suppose this is the name that I want to give. Now the settings are available in this web.config file. Okay, the settings are already available in this web.config file, but where they are located under the connection strings with this particular name. So to get that value, so this is the value. So what I will do is I will write system dot web dot, okay, so configuration dot web configuration manager. Then after this, you can see two properties which are coming. One is app settings and second one is connection strings. Okay. So right now I'm interested in getting the connection strings because it is available under the connection strings only. So that's why I'm going to call this connection strings. So this is a property that, so where I will provide the name. So what is the name? Suppose you are working for the remote database. So you will write like remote DB. Otherwise, you are going to give the local DB name. Okay, so whatever the database that you are targeting, so that name you are going to give for getting the value. Okay, so then put this to string. Okay, so then this particular value is fetched from the configuration file and it is getting stored in the constant. So let us check with this whether it is working or not. So what I will do is response.write, simply print this const string. If it is coming into this variable, then only it will print. Otherwise, it will print nothing. So that means your page is going to be blank. Okay. Suppose if it is retrieving from the web.config file, then this particular const string variable is having that details of whatever the connection string. This is the connection string details. Otherwise, it will simply retrieve the blank. So your page will not be rendering anything. Okay. So let us check with this how it is actually working. So I ran this page. So for the first time, it takes few milliseconds of extra time. Upon loading, if everything is successfully ran, you can see the data here. Okay, so this is the data which is coming. So whatever the data that is coming here, that you can access for your from your page. So that means now what is required is you are going to you are going to define this system dot data dot SQL client. Okay, dot connection string connection is equal to new connection. Okay, so this is my object. So then you are going to create this. Okay, so this particular connection is required to provide with a with this connection string also. Okay, so there you can pass on this connection string. Okay, so const string. So in that way, you keep the settings at one place and you are going to retrieve across all the pages. Why we are doing this? Because we don't want to be so we don't want to actually hard code this in this way, because this is a disadvantage if we are doing this in all the pages. Because what happens, suppose you are going to change your database servers after some 6 months or 1 year of developmental efforts due to some reason. Maybe you are migrating your database server or you have shifted onto some different new hosting server. So there can be n number of things that are happening in real time. So that's why you don't want to keep the settings which are hard coded in this way. Okay, so you don't keep these settings in this way, which are called as hard coding. So what is the problem of doing the things in this way? If your website is having some 500 pages, so hard coding in this way means you are going to open all those 500 pages and do the manipulations accordingly. So this is not practically feasible. Okay, so that's why we commonly save these settings at a single location and thereby acquire those settings from this kind of coding. Then your coding will not be getting affected even though you are going to change your database server. Suppose this database server has been changed to some different IP address, maybe that is gone to some 202, some 69 in that way. Only one place, at only one place, you are going to change those settings, and seamlessly all those pages will be getting the latest configuration, whatever the latest database configuration that you had in your application. So that is the advantage if we keep the settings in this way. Okay. Similarly, if you are working from the local database, then what you have to do is simply you have to change this to local DB. That's all. Okay. So in that way, we can have the flexibility as well as we can have the management also in a very easier way if you are doing the things in this way. Okay. Then coming with this, after seeing this connection strings, we can open up with one more setting that is called as app settings. So why these app settings are required is, suppose you are going to put the admin email address. Okay, so that email address should be common across all my web pages. Okay, so this is my admin email address. So it is actually a constant. You can treat this like a constant, but we want to keep this as a app setting so that it will be applicable for all my application pages, for all my web application pages. And accordingly, in future, if I want to change the admin email ID with something else, like the admin2 or with some domain.org, something like that. Okay, so it will be very easier for you to manage the things. So that is why we keep this kind of settings. Other than this, suppose you want to provide the latest value of some the US dollar. So this will be somewhat constant, but it can be changed also based on the changes that are happening on the international market. Like for this month, it can be 85. For the next couple of months, it can go down to some 80. Okay. So then after that, it can again 78. So at a single place, you are going to change the setting and across all the web pages, because your products are based on the USD values, and accordingly, those product values are shown by taking this value and multiplying with INR, Indian National Rupees. Okay. So accordingly, you can have your own implementation. So for those kind of settings, we can use this particular block that is called as app settings. Okay. So you can keep n number of things, like suppose what is the default theme of my web application. It should be some generic theme. Okay. So in that way you can have. Otherwise, you can keep this as some like professional theme. So in that way, you can change the settings, and accordingly, on the basis of those settings, you can have your own implementation for rendering the web pages. So for that purpose, we are opening this particular app settings block. Okay. So again, how to get these values? Simple, like we have seen with the with this constraint. What I will do is, now I will write this in a different way. Only thing is, here it will be app settings. Okay, so in that app settings, what is the name? The name is admin. Okay, so let us keep this as admin, and this is admin email. Okay, then after this, I'm going to call this admin email, so that to print, we are printing only to see whether it is coming into this variable or not. Okay, so let us comment this, the first one, and again run this. After running this, you will be getting the admin email address in the browser. Okay, so which is directly coming from the app settings. So this is coming from the app settings of the web.config file. So in that way, you can have your own implementations. And suppose you want to get the data of dollar value. So right now I will refresh this, and it will be giving me back with whatever the value that I have saved in that setting, in that USD setting. Okay, so this is how we can use the web.config files, and not only to use this connection settings and app settings, like we have discussed previously, you can put the settings for the timeout, okay, and you can put some page related settings also. So page related settings, uh, okay, so these are the pages, and pages will, whether they can be buffered or not. Okay, so all these can be, uh, we can apply on this. So there are n number of things that we can use for web.config file, and whatever the changes that you are implementing in this web.config file, they are seamlessly accessible from all the pages, and they are going to be unique. Okay, you cannot have page-wise access or page-wise value which is different from one page to second page. If you are setting with improc session state as 60, that means it is going to be 60 for all the web application pages. It cannot be like for one page it can be 60 minutes, and for another page it can be some 30 minutes. So that is not possible. So whatever the settings that you want to have in common for all the pages, that you are going to save in this particular file. So this is all about the web.config file, and with a simple demonstration we have also checked how to access these web.config file settings that we have applied for our web application. Okay, then we are remaining with one more implementation, that is caching. Okay, so the caching feature I will explain from this page itself. Okay, so let us comment this. I'm commenting this. Then this is a simple page which is having nothing. Okay, so this is a simple page, so let us remove that. This is a simple page which is having nothing, that means no interface. Okay, so nothing is there. If I select this design, you cannot see anything because we have not used any controls here, nor neither written anything on this page. So a caching feature is that concept which we have understood previously. That the concept is like whatever the scalable part, whatever is the limiting factor for your web application, for the scalability factor, is going to be given with some kind of advantage by taking this caching object. So what it actually does, it actually sits in between your web server and the client, between your client and web server. And for the first time compilation, it is going to be processed in the web server's memory. And for the subsequent requests, it is going to directly serve the response which was created previously. So by that way, it is cutting down all the further resources which are required for n number of users. Suppose your application is having one resource which is going to be used by some 1 billion users. Only for the first time it is going to be compiled, and it is going to be stored in the cache object. And for all the subsequent nearly 1 million users, it is going to be directly serving the response taking from that cache object without sending that request to the web server. So that is the advantage we are getting when you are using the caching concept in your ASP.NET applications. So how to implement this? So for doing this caching, we don't have to program, we don't have to put n number of lines of coding. It is a very simple trick that we are going to set in our page. So what is that trick? We are going to use one directive. Okay, so all these are directives actually, assembly, implements, import. So all these are directives. And one directive, this we have seen in the user controls. So register is the user control directive. And for the caching, we have to take this output cache. Okay, so this is the directive which we require, and this will be applicable only for this default.aspx page. It cannot be applicable for another page like contact us page or any other page. Okay, so wherever you are applying this directive, in that page only it is going to be activated, and it is going to be served from that cache object which was created. So output cache directive I have created, and in this the mandatory attribute is duration. So duration you can keep for some seconds. Suppose right now I want to set for cache object up till 10 seconds. So I am setting with this duration is equal to 10. And one more attribute which is required is variable parameter, that is none. As of now, you just understand that variable param in normal cases it is going to be none. Okay. Now, how to check this output cache? Because as I have told, this is going to be created in between the web server as well as in the client request. Okay, so this is going to be acted as a proxy from your website, from your web server side. So that's why how to see this particular object is actually running or not. Okay, so for that we will simply take one simple demonstration. Let us write something which is based on real time, some real time statistics. Okay, so for that I will take this datetime dot now, and this is some toString which I am going to this is nothing but the current time. Okay, so the current time I am going to write on the web page user interface. So nothing extra, we have taken only one single line of coding to demonstrate this particular feature is whether working or not. Okay, and on this particular default.aspx, which is the source code file, we have written this output cache with some duration 10 seconds and variable parameter is equal to none. Only this much of thing we have done, and we have not written a single line of code except to print this current time. Okay, not n number of lines we have created in this page load event. Okay, so let us check how it is actually running. Okay, so I have run this page default.aspx, and as soon as it ran, it is going to print the current time. Okay, so this is the current time, you can see 12:43:50, and I will reload this. Again it is showing 50. I am reloading this, it is 59, and I am going to refresh 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So after nearly 10 seconds only the value is getting changed. Okay, so again 1 2 3 4, the value is not at all getting changed, but only after some 10 seconds, elapsing of 10 seconds, the value is going to be changed. Okay, and again I am re-hitting this refresh button. It is not going to be changed at all because we have applied this setting to cache the response of this page till 10 seconds. So that's why it is going to maintain that cache for the 10 seconds of time, and after the 10 seconds of time it is going to send that request to the web server. Okay, now it has sent that request to the web server. 48 was the latest request, and accordingly it is going to be maintained for another 10 seconds. You can see 58. So in that way we can actually save some of the hits from the user side. So that means if I'm putting this value like some 600, what happens? 600 seconds means it is going to be how many? These are going to be like 6 minutes of time. You can maintain the cache in your server's memory. So the advantage is till that user is not at all, suppose this is my current request, which is reloaded now. Okay, so this is going to be maintained for till 600 seconds of elapse. Okay, so that means in between, in a duration in this particular 600 seconds of time, suppose there are 500 requests, so all those 500 requests are going to see the same result. So this is the only result they are going to see, because the server is not at all getting that request, so that to process accordingly. Okay, so if I refresh, if I reload this page n number of times, it is going to show me the same output which was created some 600 seconds back. So the value depends on the programmer. So for how much time the cache object should be maintained in the server. So what is the advantage? Because the 500 users requests are not going to be processed by the web server. That means your web server is not at all working. Okay, then you are going to save the precious resources, the network, the bandwidth, the server's memory, the user responsiveness you are increasing. So all these are the benefits of having the caching. So that's why by carefully assessing in which page I have to use this caching object, or otherwise if it is not at all required, then you don't have to keep this particular directive. Okay, so not only this page, you can have the caching applicable on this like on this web.config file also. So in this web.config file also, you can enable this caching feature. You can see in the system.web, you can enable the caching feature, and accordingly you can create some timeout and what are the pages. So all these you can have the settings which can be configured from one application to another application. So that depends on your requirements. Okay. So not only from this page, you can access the settings from this web.config file, but they will be unique for all the pages, and they are going to be seamlessly created at the side of the web server. And again, the caching is actually maintained in the server's memory actually, but it is going to be hit before the web server is going to process the request. So that's why we can treat that like as a middleware. So we can treat that like as a middleman who is working uh, instead of your web server. Okay, so instead of your web server, this cache object comes into picture at the first level. If it is not applicable on the given context, okay, so then only the request is going to be served with the server's process. Okay, so this is about the caching, and in which one more variation is there. There are so many controls we can have, like you can deliver the cache objects based on the location. You can have the dependencies of the SQL data. You can vary the output of a page by the control name, some custom implementation. So these are all some of the changes. Let us see with this variable parameter, which is somewhat important. And suppose to see this implementation, first of all, I am going to create one, suppose one product ID. So this is a product ID, which is coming from through the format of query string. Okay, so the query string name is P or some PID, and which I'm going to access from this query string object. Okay, so this is the query string object. Similarly, I can take one more variable which is like customer ID. Okay, so this we can call as customer ID. So one is for the product ID and one is for the customer ID. Okay, or simply otherwise take this as products and this as customer. You can keep any name. Okay, so products and this as uh, customer. So only to see how it is actually behaving. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to print the information which is coming into this. Okay, so for that I will write response.write, then product, then I will actually give some line break, and then I'm going to print this. So next one is customer. Okay, then you can keep this also, there is no problem. Now what we are going to see is on the basis of the query string parameter. So this is one query string parameter and this is second query string parameter. Based on the query string parameter, I want to create my cache object. Okay, so how to do that? Suppose for this product, I want to enable the caching. So here what you are going to write is products. Okay, so and you are not going to apply the caching for this customer object, even though both are working for the same page. Okay, only for this query string parameter product, I am enabling this caching feature, and for this, I am not interested to enable this caching. So let us see what happens. Let us keep this as again some 15 seconds actually. Okay, so let us keep, because we want to test it. Okay, so till that timeout, it is not going to show with the latest processed output. So that's why we cannot keep like 600 seconds, 700 seconds, because we have to wait till that much of time, and we don't have that much time. So to see the things in an easier way, I am setting this with some 15 seconds of timeout, and I am going to run this. The first compilation, it is going to give an error. because uh, basically it should be giving with some error. It is okay. It actually ran. Yes, now it got the error because as there is no query string with this particular name, product or customer, actually it has thrown some exception. Okay, so let us pass through this particular exception, and thereafter I am going to write the query string. The first query string is product, and product is equal to some mobile. Okay, and put an ampersand to separate the query strings, and second one is customer is equal to some Vishnu. Okay, so this is what I want to pass to that web page so that it can process, and I'm going to hit this, and the cache object is created. Okay, so you can see that for the next 10-15 seconds the time is not actually changing. This we have already seen in the previous demonstration, but what I want to show is uh, I want to change this mobile to TV, then it has created a newer version. Before elapsing that timeout, it has created with this newer version. But if I am changing this to some another thing, it has not given me the latest response because 01 is there and it is still giving the 01. It has not gone to compilation. Okay. But if I am changing this to some fridge, okay, again, it has gone to the processing. So thereby we are getting the fridge and with the latest statistics. Okay. So now, even though if you are refreshing, the things are not getting changed because for the fridge, it is actually compiled and put an cache object in the memory. So that's why it is giving me the same response with the latest timeout. Okay. So that means before the timeout, if I am changing with anything else, before the 15 seconds, it is going to create a newer version because we are saying this directive from this directive, vary the cache output by this product parameters name. So whenever there is any newer parameter which I am going to give, suppose in this case I have given TV, so this is the latest output, and instantly I have changed this to some like washing machine, something like that. You can see the response is going to be changed immediately. Otherwise, keep this as some jug. Yes, again before the timeout also it is actually running and giving me back the latest output. But it is not the case with this. Okay, so I will write Ramesh here. It is not going to be changed. So all these are not possible, which are not given in this variable parameter. Okay, so that means the cache objects are automatically maintained for this page, which are not applicable for the customer because we have not taken that into consideration, so that to create a different cache output. So that is what we are having from this particular example. Okay. So with that, we have seen that some different implementations of how to actually enable your caching and where it is helpful, and how to scale up your applications by putting some simple tricks like this. Okay, so this is a simple trick that we have set on this particular page. So you can, as a programmer, you can decide on yourself whether to enable the caching so that your web server's load is somewhat reduced, so that to give the better performance to the end users. So all these things can be done easily by this output cache directive. Okay.